You're listening to the Live from the Caribbean podcast, the show that brings the stories of island people making a global impact, with your host, Pauline Joseph.
Welcome to Live from Caribbean podcast. This is Pauline, your host, and today I am joined by Duane, someone who, he doesn't know this, but when I started AC Marketing, I always saw Trinituner when I used Alexa.com for searching for local companies, because I started AC Marketing in Barbados, and I always used to be like, what is this brand? Because it's always at the top when it comes to Trinidad related questions and information. So I feel very honored that you are sharing your time with me today.
Honored to be here.
And Duane, I want you to introduce yourself as to who you are and what is Trinituner.
Thanks for having me, first and foremost. I think it's really great what you're doing with the podcast. So to jump straight into it, I'm Duane Boodasingh. I run Trinituner.com. 2020 is actually 20 years since we started Trinituner, so it's quite a milestone. When it started, I'll be honest, I had no real idea that it would grow to this. But here we are, and it is great to see that things in the digital sphere locally in Trinidad and Tobago and in the Caribbean have been flourishing, or has been flourishing. So a little bit of getting into it. Initially, my background is graphic design. I was building websites in the mid-90s, and I love cars. I've always loved cars. So a website about cars was something that was inevitable.
Yeah.
I started it just as a hobby. I also had another website about computer graphics equipment. That was a flop. But both of them just started as me blogging before blogging was a thing. So I would just have a web page and just, write about things that I was interested in. And in the late 90s, one of my favorite car magazines back then was out of the SoCal, the South California import car scene. So a lot of Honda Civics and Mitsubishi Evos and things like that. And that magazine was called Import Tuner. And so the name Trinituner just kind of, was something that I came up with at that point, registered the domain at the end of 99, and really got the site started in 2000. At that point in time, it was purely just a hobby. And 20 years later, still working at it, it is my main focus, or has been my main focus, business-wise, over the past 2 decades. So it is something that I absolutely love doing. And I think that's really important with anything regarding content creation or what would consume most of your time during the day.
So would you say that you are an accidental entrepreneur, or was this all planned?
A lot. It is not either or. It's a little bit of both. So it was calculated throughout the process, a bunch of small calculations. And yes, very early on, when I started it, one of the other directors, Darren Dorey, he is my cousin. He is also the webmaster for UE All Campuses. So he was already into the tech industry, web development industry, etc. When we started it. And another person that we started it with was Roel Francis, the late Roel Francis. And Roel had another venture at that point called Auto Advantage, with the ad in Advantage being a big capital AD. So what he was doing was, he was one of the pioneers of selling cars online locally.
Wow, okay.
And we came up with it. We sat down there with other people who were interested, and we had pipe dreams, of the cars that we would be driving and that kind of thing. So yes, I mean, we saw it as being a way of generating revenue and building the business. But at that point in time, we weren't entirely sure how it would work, or what it would grow into. And over the years, it has been a process of seeing what users are interested in and kind of evolving to ensure that their needs are met. Always keep the platform free. That was something that I always insisted on.
Wow, this sounds like a Facebook.
Yeah. It is a local. Well, it has become a local Reddit.
Yes.
/ Craigslist / online community kind of thing.
I think that's a great analogy for folks who may not be into Trinidad or understand Trinidad that much. Outside of Trinidad, the Reddit of Trinidad and the Caribbean, actually.
Yes. So one of the things that happened early on was the forum. So we had our content, but we wanted to reach out to people. Now, the first forum we had was in 2000, 2001, and that forum was nothing more than a simple bulletin board. You could log in, there was no login. You could just go on the page and post. So we had all sorts of stuff being posted there. But back then, you probably had about 500 visitors a month or something when we started in the first year. And the word spread. By 2003, we had moved over to PHPBB.
Wait. What's that for people who don't know what that is?
Oh, PHPBB is a PHP-based bulletin board that has been available since maybe the 90s. It has grown. It's free. It is community developed.
That sounds like a tech conversation.
Yes,
so for those who don't know what that is, just pause this podcast and go Google it. PHP.
Yeah. So PHPBB, there are other options like vBulletin. Forums have been a way globally of people sharing information. It was the first form of social media where people would share information, ask questions, get answers, and reach out to people that they would not have spoken to otherwise via email or SMS or whatever the technology at that point in time offered.
Wow.
The cool thing about forums is that it's archival. So you can go back to a forum post from 2000, from 99, etc., and it's still there.
And I Googled dermatologists in the Caribbean, in Trinidad, because unfortunately, a lot of the businesses, I don't know if it's entirely their fault because they're focused on their specialty. And there was a forum from like 6 years ago, and this guy made an effort and put the top 3 dermatologists, and there was obviously a conversation that was happening. And he gave his reasons why. And I called number 1, and she ended up being the best decision ever.
Right.
Because somebody else that I was going to was offering me a solution that wasn't long-term and was way more expensive. So it's so fascinating.
This dermatology forum was where?
In Trinituner.
Oh, on Trinituner.
Yes.
Okay,
so because I typed in dermatologist in Trinidad,
right,
they gave you the company because
right,
somebody asked a question. And because of that question, people responded. And one of the responses was the top 3 in their right, opinion, who it was. And I was like, wow.
So that goes back to the evolution that took place on the forums, on our website. When we started, we would go cover a few events, take photos, post it up. Then people would write in and say, I'm looking for someone to do this, or I have this to sell, can you post it for me? And we realized that a forum was something that we should probably do. So one of our top developers, our main developer right now is Richard Williams, and another one is Ryan Olton. Ryan came on a little later on. But Richard, better known as Dry, he has been in the digital realm probably before me. And he had set up that bulletin board, and we looked at it and what was going on, and we realized that people didn't just want to talk about cars. And they started to talk about, current events, politics, religion, what brand of soap they use, all sorts of stuff. And then too, in the classifieds, while it did start off with people selling their cars or posting car parts for sale, someone has an extra set of wheels to sell, a door handle, whatever it might be, they also want to sell other things. So now the classifieds has fridge, stove, couch, laptop, cell phones, just about anything.
Okay.
And we do it in a way that it's free to users. The only time we charge is if it is a commercial sale. So let's say you have a cell phone you want to sell. People go up, post it on Trinituner, it gets sold. If you have a bunch of cell phones to sell, you might be a suitcase trader, you probably have a kiosk in the mall, or you have one of these sell outlets, we would charge a small fee. And that has grown. We have vendors, we have people who use the community to be able to sell their stuff. So for example, you may have someone who sells and installs air conditioning units. While it may not make sense necessarily for him to go and post the units that he has, it makes a lot of sense for him to get into the community and talk about air conditioned units. So he would go into the lounge forums and he would help users, hey, I'm having this problem. He would talk to them about it. He would even post up, hey, we did an install today and it is a 36,000 BTU unit that doesn't look big and ugly. It has been cool in this place, and here's how we did the install. And anybody with AC problems now would tend to contact him because he's part of that community.
Yeah, because they leverage the community. Are you a small business owner? Are you looking for maybe a place that will give you an address, but you don't necessarily want to pay that astronomical amount of rent? Or maybe you need a space outside of your home? Go check out Regis. They have locations in Trinidad, Barbados, Jamaica, and Guyana. Google Regis Caribbean and tell them Pauline sent you. So what I'm hearing here is you had an idea, and over time it evolves. So you're saying to me, because now everybody's like, you need to have a business plan, you need to plan 5 years ahead, you need to have,
That
so
never happened.
Did you have you did not
never
have
happened.
Okay, all right. And it's interesting because what has happened is the community evolved an idea that you had, which is
we provided the platform,
right,
and the users make it what it is.
So would you have said at the start of this 20 years ago that you would have predicted this would have happened?
Not to the scale. So it was difficult to tell back then. For example, I was creative director at Evolve New Media. Initially, Evolve New Media came out of Caribbean Interactive Multimedia, then merged with the Rosette's company, who were doing maps and offering web services, and then eventually Evolve. Evolve is still there, Edward Monserin. And when I was at Evolve, I believe the last website I worked on was Port Authority's website. But we had worked on one of TSTT's first websites, Republic Bank's first website, a lot of large companies locally. In fact, when I started Trinituner, we were just kind of looking for ways to generate some revenue to be able to buy some equipment to continue covering the events, because at that point that was the main content. We hadn't really gotten into user created content as yet. So I'm talking about 2000, 2001. And in building Republic Bank's website, they had just started their career builder line of products, and they were targeting young adults, and our demographic appealed to young adults. And I spoke to them and said, hey, send me a little graphic, or let me do a graphic and I'll put it on the site. It probably sees about 500 people a month or something like that. And we put it there, and then we started to look at the traffic that was coming in. I mean, back then it was just simple page counters and things like that. But we started to look at the traffic coming in from this directly there for people looking to open a new account, probably find out about getting their first card, etc. And that was the first set of banner ads. And I'm not sure Google was even doing banner ads back then. But it came out of a need to be able to generate revenue. We had a publication, and being in the graphic and publishing and printing industry, my first job was actually at Trinidad in 1994.
Good, right? You're age there, boy.
Yeah. Right. So we, having that background, it made sense. You have a publication, you have an audience, you have a readership, you generate revenue from ads. And we've kept that business model 20 years later. We don't charge users to use the website. We generate revenue from selling advertising, and basically giving that audience to advertisers. We have a very active audience. Yeah. And it's 18 to 35. The core of it is probably 25 to 35 kind of thing. Okay. That is a lucrative segment of the market, sure. Particularly for digital.
Especially marketing, because as just kind of stepping into my digital marketing role, that age group is usually most expensive because that's the one that people want to reach. But I want us to step back a bit and talk about Duane, the individual, right? So we know that Duane is somebody who manages this site and loves cars. But what else do you do? Where would you catch Duane on a weekend? Besides being in front of a computer.
Yeah, I'm literally in front of screen like all the time. So the thing is, I spend a lot of time doing things that are ancillary to Trinituner. Okay. So weekends I am at motorsport events or some car related something or the other. Between running a website of this size and spare time taken up doing about the same thing as well. I also have 3 kids.
Well, I mean, that is right. You should have stopped that off, because then you'll be like, that's where all your time is. Absolutely,
all my time is spent with the 3 kids. I have a 12-year-old and 6-year-old twins, right? Girls, yes.
Wow.
So that absolutely takes up all of my time. I work at home.
Right. So I was going to ask you, is that work balance? Do you have a significant other with you?
Yes. So my wife and I, she would help with the site as well. Some of the administrative stuff. Okay. But first and foremost, her focus is kids.
Right.
Right. So what has happened over the years is that I was always more comfortable operating at times of the day that tend to be more productive. And that's not necessarily 8 to 4, because you have all sorts of stuff happening during the day, something to see about, something to go do. So your most productive time might probably be 10 in the night. Right, or 1 o'clock in the morning.
I'm sure a lot of people listening to this stoops in, and it's like, gosh, I wish I had that as well.
Yeah. So, yes, I had an office job for years.
Yeah.
The last day I worked was in 2004.
When you say work for somebody else.
Work for somebody else.
Because you still working.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel like that.
I agree. You're not seeing as people who listen, but I'm agreeing tremendously.
Yeah, to the point that you almost feel guilty.
What?
Like,
oh my God, yes.
Am I working?
Yes, I feel the same way. Oh my God.
But it's fantastic.
Yes, I do.
And I feel like I am far more productive.
Yes.
Not only in the business, but as a husband and father, and a family person. You know, you tend to be more productive there as well.
So it's a full 360.
Exactly. You can be productive with all of these things in a much more valuable way.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And I would like to see more companies move to remote, you know, model.
Yes.
Um,
And I need to have a caveat. Maybe this is a plug, but we're currently having and recording this session at Microsoft, which also provides solutions for remote living.
yeah, I've seen way too many people waste time sitting for hours in traffic.
Yes.
To get to the office, to have a meeting about a meeting,
Yes.
and then time's up, time to go home or have lunch and then come back to that same meeting about the meeting.
Yeah.
And that's it for the day.
Yeah.
So, especially with larger companies, they take forever to make the simplest decisions. You know.
I namaste right now.
Yeah. So this works well for me as an individual. Some people even ask, how can you work at home and not want to go in front of the TV? And I mean, I was even telling my dad the other day, you know, because he's always sending me, he's retired, so he's always sending me, hey, check out this series, you know, check this out, look at this movie. And I just have a long list of things that I need to read, I need to look at, you know, and I need a neural patch to be able to look at all of these things. I have no idea how people look at all these series on TV and up to date with it. Now, being in the business I'm in, yes, it's automotive, but at the end of the day, it's an online community. So you need to be current with all the pop culture and that kind of thing to be part of the conversation. So a lot of times I would make sure that I look at some of these things just so that, you know, you could understand the memes and join in the conversation and understand as a moderator where to direct things to, right? One of our main advertisers would be for movies. So we get bookings from Disney, Paramount, and Universal. And to be able to, you know, talk in the movie blog, you have to look at the movies, see who's starring, see who people would actually pay to go and see, you know, which studio is actually creating the content right now.
The most current star that's coming up.
So you need to put aside time to do that. But really and truly, between business and family, it's all consumed.
Yeah,
and I would like to think too that I am good at time management.
Okay.
I'm probably not, but I would like to think I am. And it is a challenge. It is a challenge to really find time to, you know, go get enough rest, get enough exercise, get enough of everything. You know, family time. Besides the kids, you know, spend time with the wife, spend time with family, etc. So it is a challenge, but it is so much better when you work remotely and you could decide when you want to spend that time and where you want to spend that time. You know, the only problem with it is that I don't ever stop working. Right? I work 24/7, 365. Even if I am on quote unquote, and I'm doing big air quotes here, on vacation.
And I'm shaking my head.
Vacation doesn't really happen. So instead, what you do is you have to go on a business trip and you make that part of the vacation, you know?
I completely understand. And that was a realization for me last year, because traveling, I was like, wait a minute, this is vacation? Because I have 11 o'clock meeting, which is 11 o'clock at night where I was. And at no point in time, only after I came back, I was like, oh, wait, I do need a vacation. And that's, I think, one of the pitfalls of remote living. It's definitely flexible, but it can have its dangers. Pauline here to let you know about Microsoft 365. As a small business owner, it's been very challenging to, look for sales, increase your clientele. But one thing I am sure of is my business has to be housed in a cloud solution. Not only does it assist with my bottom line and rent expense, but it allows me to track the productivity of my team members. You need to go check it out. Microsoft 365. You will not regret it. So I want to step back into Trinituner because we're in a space now in Trinidad and to an extent some of the other parts of the Caribbean when it comes to foreign exchange, right? And you are in an environment that you receive foreign exchange. Would you say that 80-70% of your business comes from outside? Where is your percentage? If you can share that with us.
I would say about 30 to 40% is foreign currency.
Okay.
Right? But the majority is local.
Okay.
The thing is, though, that we choose to charge in TT currency. We feel as though it's important that this not just be, hey, we want to book an ad online, give us your credit card information, and we'll book it. In fact, the last item in our process of working with a brand to promote to our audience is the actual invoicing and talking about money. Mm-hmm. At first, we want to ensure that the creatives are working, the marketing is working, everything is in place and operational and actually showing results before we start to talk about money.
Okay.
And it's easier for a lot of these companies, for example, to cut a check.
Yeah, in the currency that
right,
the country
rather than having to get a credit card and pay online, etc.
Well, that's a good solution.
The other thing too is that we do generate enough forex to be able to pay our forex bills because we do have silver fees and things like that to pay for.
Yeah.
So we ensure that there's a balance there. But to say that we are trying to, we're not even trying to move over to collect more forex.
Okay.
It is a challenge for a lot of companies. Mm-hmm. We do have the ability to do it. Like I could switch over and say, no, we're doing online payments only now. Yeah. But I think that will just frustrate the situation. We're not here to frustrate. We're here to help and work with.
Well, that comes from understanding your environment too, right? Because that is a known issue. So would you say that, it's 20 years now, what percentage of that 20 years was profitable or is profitable? Because technically your operational costs are all cloud-based, is it?
Yeah.
And labor.
So even the company is entirely virtual in terms of we don't really have staff. And I'll get into why that is so after. But yeah, we don't really have staff. And so we try to keep operational costs as low as possible. And I also try to scale it based on, what we have to do, going back to having more time in the day. The way that things are run leaves space for, it gives a lot of flexibility in how you would operate during the day. And because of that, it means then that we can set up work in a way that, for example, instead of hiring a photographer and a journalist, we want to promote entrepreneurism. So we would prefer that we help you set up a business and then you can do photography for other people as well, right? But you invoice us for what, for the work that you've done. It makes them feel a little more productive. It makes them feel as though they're really into this business that they're growing on the side. Some of them have their regular day jobs, but they do photography on the side. And we've seen the content produced that way flourish a lot better. Whether it's a journalist, a photographer, programmer, whatever it might be, we've seen their work flourish a whole lot better using that system than if we were to just straight out hire them.
Okay.
Adding to that now, you have companies who operate as digital agencies, and we encourage that as well. You know, let's work with the agencies and the brands and make sure that what we're offering works. We've had brands that have been advertising with us since inception, like I had mentioned, you know, the banks, for example, NP, Castrol. They've been there since, Shell, and we want to ensure that they keep coming back. And to do that, you can't operate from a standpoint that, hey, we're just about money and we're just about, you know, collecting. So whatever is more convenient for us is the way we'll go. That's not how we will operate at all. We want to make sure that everybody's comfortable. So if they're comfortable with paying in Forex, paying with a check, paying with a bank transfer, whatever it might be, that is what we'll use. For the small vendors, we switched over to PayPal mainly because it was a far more accountable service for them and us. So if they're not comfortable, they can go back to PayPal and you know, have some kind of resolution.
So all of this, all these business decisions that were made has evolved into a profitable business, or is it that because your overheads are so low, you have maintained profitability for the 20 years?
Yes, it would be the latter. So
wow.
we've scaled to the point that, you know, if we can see more business, right, then the cost would go up. And it's kind of automatic the way the scaling happens too, because the more traffic we get, the more server fees and cloud fees and that kind of thing we have to pay for. But the more traffic means we get more advertising dollars. So, you know, we actually have a lot of excess inventory right now that we would like to get sold.
Sorry, what do you mean by inventory?
Oh, sorry. So what I would call inventory would be page views, right? A page view is a thing that I can sell. Right, so that is my item, and on that page view, I can show ads. So that ad space, the amount of page views you get, translates to the amount of ads you can show, and therefore each ad view, each impression, is what you charge the client for. So using that model, it means that the more views equals more ads. However, we don't really have a sales team going out there and selling ads. 95% of the ads you see on Trinituner are organic. People would contact us to place their ads. And we've been lucky to be in that position. But we're realizing now, before our challenge used to be getting people online, convincing people that online was the way to go. We spent the first decade doing that, and probably piece of the second decade as well. Now you don't have that problem at all. People are online. So what do we do with this extra traffic? We need to try and sell it. So yes, now I am looking at probably doing sales of actually going to companies and saying, hey, this is our website, this is what we do, this is our audience. Are you interested?
That's amazing. So what advice would you give to somebody who is interested? Because within Trinidad, I feel like we have a hustler mentality, so that everybody has a side hustle. I don't think everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur, but from where you sit, 20 years of experience, what advice would you give to someone who wants to come into that space online?
So,
one. Like, what's the biggest takeaway?
What is the biggest takeaway of someone trying to get into that space? Stick-to-itiveness. It has to be. There is a lot happening. I mean, I have a 12-year-old son. He's seeing these YouTubers that make millions, right? And that is his goal. Before that, he was really into football, so he would see these superstars that make a bajillion dollars.
Yes.
You know, Messi, Ronaldo, etc. I'm not a football person. Or even these Formula One drivers, you know, that make a ton of money driving. What I have to explain to him, though, is that you have 7 billion people, and 5 of them are in that position, right? So the odds are absolutely against you.
Yeah.
I think in our digital space in Trinidad, I was lucky to be one, to have progressed to be one of the most visited local websites. And really, without a plan, you could say it's probably luck. Now, you could also say that luck is where opportunity meets preparedness. And we were prepared at the point in time the opportunities showed themselves.
Yeah.
So, yes, if that's the case, then we were lucky. However, in explaining to my son that, you know, these things don't happen to everyone and you can't really plan for it. Yes, you can try, but the important thing is that you stick behind it.
Right.
So, yes, stick-to-itiveness would be the one thing that I would give to any entrepreneur, young, budding entrepreneur, someone who is looking at it. Second, I know you only asked for one, but second would be to ensure that you enjoy what you do.
Yeah.
Because that stick-to-itiveness is going to be painful as hell if you're not enjoying it.
Yeah.
You know, so it has to be something you're passionate about.
That's with any relationship.
Yeah, well, any relationship, anything at all. I mean, you know, it could be food.
Yes.
Right? And yes, you can have a relationship with your food.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah. So if you're not enjoying it, it will be painful.
Yeah, I'm going through that right now. Pauline here, under the advice of my accountant, I have to do this ad because this is a marketing expense. So if you care, go to acmarketingcaribbean.com. If you don't, just keep listening to the podcast. I appreciate you. Okay, so we're going to wrap up with a question that I ask, and that is, let's say, come next week, you have been appointed the head of CARICOM, right? You have to manage all things Caribbean community, and you have decisions to make. What would be the first thing you would focus on?
So I'll pull some CARICOM history here. Remember that famous quote, 1 from 10 is not? Right. I think that is still so very much relevant today. And we see it happening with a lot of CARICOM things. CARICOM does not work if everyone is not involved. Everyone has to be involved. And everyone has to be involved with the same stick-to-itiveness and gung-ho that everyone else has. And what happens in the Caribbean is some nations are not interested in it as much as others, and some need it more than others, right? Or some need it less than others. And the ones that need it less tend to be the ones that, you know, throw it at the wayside. It is very important that as a Caribbean community, you know, we stick together and understand the value of what it is we have. It might sound a little hypocritical in that this isn't Caribbean tuna that I started, right? Or West Indian tuna, it's Trinituner. And we do tend to focus more on Trinidad. Yes, we do go and cover events in Jamaica, Barbados, Guyana, when they're Caribbean-based events there. But yes, the focus is on Trinidad. But nothing is wrong with focusing your business in your country of origin, but understand that it's okay to work with everyone else in the Caribbean region. And I mean, we do get a lot of traffic from the Caribbean diaspora all over the world. I wouldn't doubt there are more Jamaicans and Trinis living outside of Jamaica and Trinidad than, you know, we just this morning we were talking about an international event, well, a Caribbean event that mostly takes place in Barbados, but we're going to have 2 rounds of it here in Trinidad. Is the Radical Cup. It's a faster car that's made for the track.
Okay.
And they're bringing the series here.
Talk about gas heads.
Yeah. So, these are things that we all share within the Caribbean. But in terms of CARICOM, you see a lot of things that would work a whole lot better if the nations come together and work with each other a little more. I mean, yesterday in the news, you're seeing that that TNT was giving support to Barbados and things like that. We need more of that support, but we also need to understand that the Caribbean has a massive amount of potential that we have not really tapped into. Digital would absolutely help that. The world is that much smaller with digital. It's easy for us to reach out, and I think we should leverage digital now to get that Caribbean talent out there, and get more of what we need in the Caribbean and what we need to get out.
Okay. So on that note, we will close off. If somebody wants to find Duane, where would you send them?
Trinituner.com.
All right.
Contact us. We have our 68 tuner number. We're on WhatsApp there. We're on as much platforms as possible.
Okay.
Trying to figure out TikTok, but no, I mean, so a 9-second video was something that Vine did, right?
Yes.
And successfully, and then they closed down, and we're not sure why. But the attention span of these younger audiences just keeps shrinking, and temporary content is something that I guess in my older years I'm fighting to understand. But I appreciate why it's a thing.
Yeah.
I just was more accustomed to archival content.
Right.
And that was what I think should remain, but that's a conversation for another time.
Different generations. So just for those who may not know tuna, you want to spell that out? So
Trinituner, TRINITUNER.com.
Okay. All right, great. Well, thank you so much, Duane.
No problem, anytime.
Thanks for joining us this week. Make sure to subscribe in iTunes, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen for your podcasts. Don't forget to join the community at our website, LinkedInLocalCaribbean.com. If you liked this show, you might want to check out our next LinkedIn local event by following the hashtags on LinkedIn. Search for hashtag LinkedIn Local Caribbean.